In this review, we're going to look at inheritance. So remember, you get chromosomes from your mom and your dad, and each of these chromosomes have genes, which are small sections of DNA. You have 2 copies of each, one from mom, one from dad, and they code for proteins, which then create traits. So on a homologous chromosome, you'll have the same genes, so for example, hair color, eye color, and skin color, but you could have different alleles, which are different versions of those genes. So for example, brown versus blonde hair, brown versus blue eyes, and dark versus light skin. Now, some of these alleles are going to be dominant, meaning they always show up, and so we're going to give them big letters, and the others might be recessive and little letters. So let's look at this gene particularly. So the gene is hair color. The alleles are brown, which is dominant, big H, blonde, which is recessive, little h. So brown and blonde represent the phenotypes, or the physical trait, and the genotypes that result are either, you could have 2 big H's, which would be homozygous dominant, or a big H and a little h, which is heterozygous. And for blonde, the only way you can get that, since it's recessive, is to have 2 little h's and be homozygous recessive. Now, Punnett squares, remember, we have a dad here who is heterozygous, mom homozygous recessive. So that means dad is going to have brown hair, mom's blonde. Dad's going to give a big H or little h, mom's going to give little h's. We're going to use the Punnett square to figure out what the possible offspring could look like. Put one parent on one side, one on the other, bring them down. And so these are the possible offspring. When we look at the genotypes, we have 50% heterozygous, 50% homozygous recessive, and for the phenotypes, 50% blonde and 50% brown. Now, some other patterns, remember we have sex-linked traits, which are on the X or the Y chromosome. So this would be how you write a normal male, and this would be an affected male with something like, say, hemophilia or colorblindness. And because they only have the one X, males are more likely to get it. Females to get it would have to be homozygous recessive, and a heterozygous female would be called a carrier because she can pass it along. We also talked about incomplete dominance, which is where they mix together. Red and white equals pink. Codominance, they both show up, spots. And polygenic traits, which are controlled by multiple genes and create that bell curve as to how they're expressed. Blood type, remember we have A, B, and O alleles. A and B are codominant. O is recessive. So we have as possible genotypes AA and AO, which are phenotype blood type A, and they actually have the A protein. BB, BO is also blood type B. AB is blood type AB, and OO, which is the recessive, is blood type O. Finally, with pedigrees, males are squares, females are circles. If it's not filled in, they don't have the trait. If it is filled in, they do. And if it's half and half, they're carriers. So here's what a pedigree would look like if this is you, mom, grandpa, uncle, and cousins. And remember, to figure out what kind of trait it is, a dominant trait will have no carriers, so everybody will be filled in if they have it. Recessive traits will have both male and female carriers because they can both be a carrier of a recessive trait. And then a sex-linked recessive trait will only have female carriers because males can't be a carrier of a sex-linked recessive trait.